everybody. Welcome. Another Intent Company Live. I see live number, we on 9? Number 9. We're doing 75 lives. My name is Billy Robbins. I'm the founder of Intent Company. Thanks, guys, for joining. Appreciate everybody who's been with us. And, it's just great to get all the support. Appreciate it. So today's going to be just a little different. As you may be able to tell from my voice, I'm pretty under the weather right now, and you probably don't want to hear my nasally talk and my coughing that I got going on right now. So what we're going to do today is a little different. I actually have a recording of one of the sessions that I did for Focus and Fire. So we did a group training a while ago, and I'm going to play the entire day one for you. So I want you guys to it's going to be like a workshop. So if you guys, this is a perfect first step towards creating a customer journey driven marketing system. So let me just share with you something real quick. So make sure you head over to intentcompany.com/live. So you got all of our social channels. We got our Focus and Fire workshop that we're selling for $200, giving all the proceeds to feed the hungry. Some other tools, but now also on the bottom we have the day one workbook. Okay, so if you click on this, it's going to pop open a workbook, and you can kind of follow along with the presentation. And again, it's a workshop, so not just passive sit back. This is a great tool to go into to start to build the framework. And so again, I really encourage everybody to get the Focus and Fire workshop. As I mentioned, 90% off. All proceeds go to feed the hungry. But this is the entire day one, so it's a 5-day workshop, and this is we're going to dive in on the first day. So it's a great start, good thing to check out. Hey, if you guys could help us out by getting the word out, we really appreciate it.
Hey guys, welcome back, and make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and make sure to hit that bell for notifications.
That's right. Thank you, Braden. So yeah, we really appreciate you guys getting the word out. Like, share, all that stuff. Help us get the word out for our 75 lives. And so I appreciate you guys. I thank you guys for your consistency. As I said, 75 lives was a big deal with being consistent. Things happen all the time. Like I said, like not feeling well, but still want to hop on here. Still want to go live, build that consistency, and provide value for you guys every day. Tomorrow's going to be day 10, so we're making progress. We're getting there. So I appreciate you guys. Enjoy the workshop. Excuse me. Make sure you follow along. Take notes. This stuff is really good content. So, all right, I'm going to switch over to that presentation now. You guys enjoy that, and we'll see you tomorrow. But stick around. Watch day one of the Focus and Fire workshop. Here we go.
All right, welcome everyone to the Focus and Fire 5-day workshop. We'll just give ourselves just a moment here to get everybody settled in. All right, well, I just want to thank you very much for joining our 5-day workshop. This is what we call Focus and Fire. And so what we're really hoping to do over this time is to help you in this shortened 5-day period, in these short bite-sized segments, to create a compelling, motivating, high-impact marketing strategy for purpose-driven brands. And so, this is what we've been doing for a number of years. We've kind of taken down the best of the processes that we've taken over these last 15 years of working with some awesome brands and boiled down into how do we create compelling, again, motivating, because it isn't just about like getting, some activity going, but getting your team fired up, getting the results that you want. This is Again, I think this is going to be transformational for your brand. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time, whether you're on our Zoom call or in Facebook. And just a reminder, if you're jumping in halfway through, you're seeing this at a different point, we're going to be hosting these videos all week long in our private Facebook group. So if you got the chance, you got the opportunity to, please make sure to join the private Facebook group. It'd be a great place to participate and get some more information. All right. So with all that said, let's get to it. All right, I want to start off with a bit of a story because really this process, this whole journey that we've gone on is kind of the byproduct of an experience that I had. And this experience that I had happened, back in 2010, I think, probably like 11 years ago or so. And maybe 2011. And what we experienced was this idea that, now, let me give you an example here. So we're not just talking about, we were doing a little bit of marketing. I had an opportunity to work with some amazing marketers. We were working with some fantastic brands, some real high impact brands doing some really cool things. And what we were realizing, though, is that we were kind of applying certain strategies, applying certain methodologies, and for certain brands, it would work great. For others, it wouldn't. We had no idea why it would work in this case and that case. And to be honest, we were just kind of in a routine of just doing the same thing over and over again for particular brands. And so one of the things that I wanted to really look at was, why is this? Why is it that we could do the same type of work for a particular brand, get a completely different result? Apply that same expertise, the same methodology, the same skill sets, and then get a completely different result. Well, I don't know if you're like me, but when I started off, in my business and I started off leading marketing teams, I had a dream. I had this grand vision, right, of making this high impact, seeing all this growth, having this amazing team, being on fire. And that was where I started off. That's what I wanted. Maybe that's where you're at in your business, right? And even if you don't own the business, if you are, running some marketing, doing different pieces within the company, are you feeling like you had this grand vision at one point and then someday it's just kind of turned into the grind? Right? And that happens, I think, for all of us. We go from the dream to the grind. All of a sudden, it's just get by. All of a sudden, it's just, how do I get this landing page up? How do I get this email off? How do I do this, this ad campaign? And after about a couple years leading this particular team, working with these brands, I found myself in that situation. And I had the great fortune of being able to step away for a few days. Conferences, workshops, things like this are so important because it gives you a chance to work on your business instead of in it, to think a little bit about, where are you? Where could you be? What do you want? What are the kind of dreams? And I'll tell you, I was pretty disappointed where I ended up. I was pretty disappointed in the fact that I had so many clients that weren't seeing the success that I know they should, the success that they trusted us for. And so I really took inventory on these few days away in Seattle and thought, what's going on? Why are we here? And then what do we do about it? And I had this just few moments of clarity, if you will, some ideas. And I remember journaling these down. And honestly, that process and those few days turned into kind of this entire presentation, which then turned into some pretty awesome success working with brands, starting a business. And so, it's important to understand that this comes from real activity. This is not just a byproduct of doing some things online. This is working with real brands, seeing real results. And so let me show you what's wrong before we can fix it. I think one of the things as a marketer today that we've got to always fight against is the inputs that we're getting from other people. Now, I don't know if you do this, but like the blogs, the gurus, all the different pieces are always feeding you information. These websites want to tell you what to do. There's this, oh my gosh, Facebook changed this, Amazon changed that, Google Ads changed this. And you're just constantly receiving all of these inputs about what to do from a marketing perspective, right? What should I be doing? And it's good ideas. There's some good advice. There's things you do. Maybe you see a little success, but it always seems to wane, or it just seems to be a haphazard approach. And why is that? Well, the first thing I had to do was look at all of these experts, right? These people have given us information. And I'm like, well, what is their intent? Why do these people have the blogs, have the things? What is their intent? Well, to be honest, for most of these content producers, the idea is to have something new and interesting to talk about. If you don't have something new and interesting, you're not going to get clicks. And in fact, some individuals use some, edgy cases in order to get the clickbait, in order to get the response that you think that you would want, right? This kind of engagement. And so is it new and interesting? Well, it could be new and interesting, but that doesn't mean that it's going to drive success. That doesn't mean it's going to drive your business. And what I realized was with all of these inputs that we were getting, all of this information, we had been infected. And the infection that we caught was called the shiny new toy syndrome. And this happens constantly. I'll be honest, I've been reinfected with this over and over again. And I will be even more poignant that the times that I'm most susceptible to the shiny new toy syndrome are the times where I have the least amount of confidence, right? If things aren't working the way I wanted to, or I'm not sure what to do, it's very easy for me to just go way over here and then way over there, trying to like catch this idea. Oh, I saw them doing this, and this is really hot right now. And it's easy to fall into that. And not to say that all advice that we get or certain inputs aren't good, but it needs to fit into a construct. It needs to fit into this plan. And that's what this entire presentation today is about the principles that are of success. So you can look out and see what's there and see, does this meet the criteria for how I know that I need to market my business? All right, so let's talk about the symptoms of the shiny new toy syndrome. All right, first off, it's hard to know what's working and what's not. So if you've ever been in that case where you're doing a bunch of stuff, but you're not really sure what's working, or if you do see some success, you don't know where it came from. If that's the case, then you may have the shiny new toy syndrome. This one's huge, and I'll be honest, I am so guilty of this. You see something, you get really fired up about it. You're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what we need to be doing. And you get all this energy around it. You go and execute. Maybe you get a little bit of momentum. You do it for a little while, and then all of a sudden fizzles. And then you're like, wow, we spent a lot of money on that. Or wow, we went really far and then never came. Why is that? No, that's because maybe something shinier came up. Or we lack confidence in the thing that we were first going on. But this is a huge signal of shiny new toy syndrome. And the third step, which I see all the time, especially in bigger organizations, is that you have many things going on. Right? You might be buying traffic, you got emails, you got landing pages, you got people making phone calls, but all of the activity is haphazard. It's not part of a cohesive plan. It's not part of a thread. It's just kind of, doesn't complement each other. And so these are the three major signs that I see for the shiny new toy syndrome. And, you may have experienced these in the past. And now think about it for a little bit. When this was the case, what was that initiated that activity? Why did it fizzle? Why didn't you pull through? And I'll be honest, some of those ideas that you had that were kind of half-baked or, kind of scattered a little bit, they might not be bad ideas. It just might be the way that we approached it. And I'll tackle that a little bit later on. The other kind of way to think about this is the belief that marketing success or business success is the byproduct of finding the winning lottery ticket. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is, if you believe that success is basically like, if I just got the right keyword or the right thing or got the right person to talk, then all of a sudden I would be successful. That's oftentimes a byproduct of the shiny new toy syndrome. That's a byproduct of not realizing, again, what I'm going to talk about in a little bit, that success is incremental. Success is a process. And so when we have the shiny new toy syndrome, we tend to think in terms of lottery ticket or the winning formula or the right, yes, if I could just dial that in. But that is definitely not going to be successful. Your business, your personal growth, your everything was not the byproduct of like just snap of a finger, I'm a success. No, it's a process. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about, is the right process to focus on in this presentation. Another way to think about this is the idea that tactics are oftentimes called strategies. And this happens all the time online. It's like, oh, well, what's your Facebook strategy? Or what's your this strategy? It's like, no, you're just teaching a tactic. You're teaching a particular way to execute on one small thing that's not part of an overarching strategy. It's just being tactical. And you can be tactically amazing. Like you could be tactically amazing at digging a hole and be digging completely in the wrong place. Right? It doesn't, just because you have an aptitude to execute doesn't mean that it's going in the right direction to achieve the right result. And so we have to think first strategic, strategy, and that should dictate our tactics. This first day is going to be most about kind of philosophical approaches. The rest of it's going to be a lot more practical. But I wanted to start here because if you don't believe the things that I'm going to share on this call right now, then the tactics and what we're going to do to execute is not going to really matter. And so this is the foundational principles of success that we see it. This is the foundation. Now, just to kind of hammer this home, I love this quote by Vince Lombardi, or this is what he would say. So Vince Lombardi, old coach back in like the 60s, I think he might have gone into the 70s. He won the first few Super Bowls, highly regarded as one of the best football coaches ever. Won a few Super Bowls, or even before they had Super Bowls. And every single year, working with the highest performing individuals of their sport, and they're like the excellent, the pinnacle of the pinnacle, he would start every single new season by holding up a football and saying, "Gentlemen, this is a football." The most fundamental of fundamentals. And if you think about that, if you look at the individuals or research, especially in sports, you think about what Michael Phelps has said, Michael Jordan, Bill Belichick, these individuals, they're always hammering home the fundamentals, the basics. Being excellent at the fundamentals tends to lead to better success than dabbling in the esoteric. And so another way to think about this, and maybe this is the way that you've kind of approached this, at least I know I have, is I will think about what I want, right? When we're thinking about a new initiative, you're like, wow, if we achieve this, if we built this, it could be so amazing. We could have this and we could have that, and it would be beautiful, and we'd have all these leads and all these sales and all this traffic. And we think about kind of all of the finer points of how amazing this all could be. But if all of those ideas and all of those tactics and all those things that we're trying to implement is not built on a firm foundation, we may very well end up with something that we didn't plan on having. And so the foundational elements are absolutely core to our success. All right, so let's dig in. Foundational truth, foundational principle number one, and again, it's something that I struggle with. I got to remind myself all the time is I call it redefining SP. I'll use a lot of acronyms, but I will describe what those acronyms are. All right, SP. Most of the time, when we're doing marketing, we believe that what we are doing is selling products, and that is a lie. It is a lie to believe that what we do in marketing, what we're doing in sales, is selling products. And that might even sound a little funny because it's like, well, obviously we're selling products or services or what have you. But I'll be honest, if you only focus on selling products, you will actually sell very few. Truly, no one cares about your product. No one cares about your service. Nobody cares that Intent Company does marketing. If you're watching this right now, you care and you believe that maybe there's a nugget of truth. Maybe there's some information. You're spending time, your hours. And if you spent a little bit of that time on this workshop, that you may get something from there that helps accelerate your business. That's why you're here. It's all about you. And that's fine. But you also have to remember that it's all about your customers. They don't care about your product and they don't care about your service. But yet when we do marketing, we do sales, it's all about the features and the advantages. And if you get this and if you get that, this is going to be great. And to be honest, they don't care. Here's what people care about. People are delighted by having their problem solved. It truly is. It's about, they are delighted. People have problems. They have needs. And when you, as this outside source, can come in and support that individual to solve their problems and to serve them, that's what you have to focus on. That is one of the core elements. So with any landing page that you have, any email that you send, any phone call that you make, you gotta ask, is the intent of this conversation, of this engagement, is it to sell my product? Is it to showcase my product? Or is it to serve them? Because if I can serve enough people and I can solve enough problems, I have a belief that I will find success. All right, principle number 2. Maybe I should have numbered these. I think it's number 2. All right, you are not the hero. Your customer is the hero. Very much aligned with SP, but a little bit different. You're not the hero of the story. They are. These individuals are waking up with problems, with needs, and they need to solve that problem, solve that need. And you are not the hero. They are. What they're asking is, I am here, but how do I get there? How do I get to that next level? How do I take that next step? How do I find my way to my end result, my end goal? You know, I'm sorry if the Lord of the Rings analogy is lost on you, but I'm a big fan. And if you think, Frodo has this grand mission to go save everyone. He is the hero. But he's not, doesn't mean he's the most skilled, has the most abilities, the most resources, but he's the hero. And there's Gandalf. And Gandalf is his mentor, right? It's his Yoda to his Luke. As a company, as a brand, as an individual, a marketer, your goal is to be the mentor to your heroes, to know your heroes, to know how you can serve them, and then to come alongside and to help them make their journey to reach their end goal. So what is the journey? Well, here's something, again, everything we're going over here is stuff you've heard before. I'm sure you have. But there's a big gap between knowing and doing. In fact, I love the quote by Richard Biggs that says, the greatest gap in life is the one between knowing and doing. And in my experience, we have thrown away those things that have almost become cliche, like the customer journey. Yeah, I know, I've heard the customer journey a million times. But is it there? Is there a tangible, can you see it? Could you look in your business and say, yes, I practically have the customer journey implemented? So if you did, as we walk through this, you got to think, do you have a intent system in place that gains awareness? Because think about this. I mean, not to be overly obvious, but if no one is aware that you exist, or no one is aware that they have the problem that you solve, there is no ability to create a customer. None. The second step is also true. There might be people who know about you, but if they don't like you and they don't trust you and they don't believe that you can help them solve their problem, or they don't believe in you as somebody who's trying to serve them, you can't pass go. You can't keep moving on. And the next step is obvious as well. Without action, without people actually doing things. And that's funny because you see a lot of this. You see a lot of people either really heavy on sales but not trying to generate awareness, or sometimes you see companies that are really busy on awareness but they don't ask for the sale. They don't put sales landing pages. And each stage of this process requires a particular process, a particular element. And that's exactly what we're going to go through in this week. But they have to take action. And I would say, and this is the biggest missing ingredient in all of marketing, all of business today, is that there's a fourth step. And that is not only to get a customer, but to get a brand advocate. And a brand advocate is extremely valuable. Someone who buys again and again, tells everybody they know about you. The advocate is the core, the central, the most important part of your business. We'll talk about that more in just a moment. So think about this. Here's the customer journey. If you had this slide, could you replace those question marks with a very clear activity, a campaign at each of those points that leads people through the path to know who you are, like you, trust you, buy from you, and then end up telling everybody they know about you? If you don't, then we have the missing ingredients. That this is the process that we need to go through, is to develop this thing. And that's exactly what we want to create at the end of this week, is a full path to purpose customer journey map based off of you serving people and solving problems. All right, so let's go back to advocacy for a minute. Let me jump here. So one thing also think about is with this journey here, with the customer journey that exists, it's interesting because there's, at each of these points, it's not just that you have an actual engagement point, like you have, as I mentioned, a campaign, but it's also to understand and realize that at each of these phases, your best customer is facing barriers. There's something stopping them from being aware. There's a barrier. Maybe it's their barrier, their psychological barrier. Maybe it's a barrier that you're just not in front of the right people, but there's something there that's missing that's stopping your best customers from hitting that point. And so what we got to do is build bridges. We got to figure out how to overcome and create a bridge that can get more of those people to be aware, more for affinity, more for action. And ultimately, there has to be a KPI. There's a data point. KPI means key performance indicator. So there's a measurement. There's an indicator saying that this is being successful or not. And so when we have these pieces in place, including that KPI, that indicator of success, now we have something to work with. Now we have something that we can improve, that we can go through, that we can actually make some adjustments to get a higher amount of people to keep going through the customer journey. If you think about it, this is like a lock. Like, I hate to be corny of like unlocking your success, but honestly, like if there's a combination for your business, your marketing to have amazing results. And it's really to know what is the number for each of these elements. And it's not just to know the number, they have to be in order. And they all four need to be there. If you had a lock and you had 3 out of the 4 numbers, you still can't get it open. You have to have all 4 and they have to be in the right order. But I will say here that the goal of all of this isn't just to get a customer, it is to build an advocate. So let me ask you a question, and maybe you could write this down in your worksheet. What is the purpose of a business? What do you think? This is an interesting question. If you had a second to just think in business, what is the purpose of it? If you could write it down, that would be awesome. All right. Let's dig back in here, and I want to look at the element of advocacy. We believe that the goal of all marketing should be to develop and reproduce brand advocates. Let me tell you why. A brand advocate is so powerful, and for various reasons. One is they buy based on value, not price. Now, who loves that, right? How many times has price point been an issue? Well, if there is a big enough advocate, if they have enough perceived value, they're not going to care about price. They stay your customer. They identify with your brand, which kind of means that your brand has to have an identity. And so that's going to be part of our process here. They also tell your story, which again means that you have a story to tell. And just because you have a story doesn't mean that that story is packaged up and able to be given to your best customers easily. And that's what it needs to be. A brand advocate is easily the 20% of your customers that produces 80% of results, and sometimes it's even more than that. And I would say that a brand advocate is easily worth 30, 60, or 100 times more than the average customer. So I think you could see, and I hope you agree with me, that the idea of having an advocate, that sold out customer who loves telling everybody about you, who, and all of you are advocates, right? I'm an advocate for so many brands. There's certain brands that as soon as they come out with something, as soon as they're talking about something, I'm all over it, right? And so we have to think in that terms when we're creating our customer journey map. Not just to get a customer, but to get these advocates, because the value of an advocate is so much higher that all of our focus, all of our attention should be geared towards creating those. All right, so what did you write down for the purpose of a business? Well, management guru Peter Drucker says that the purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer. And I love that quote. I think the goal of a business is to make money, right? We have the goal of producing revenue, but the goal of a business, the way you make revenue, in fact, the more customers you create and the more that you keep, I don't think revenue is a problem anymore. And so when we think about that in terms of getting and keeping customers, and then we think, is our marketing, is our messaging, is what we made aligned with creating and keeping customers, all of a sudden now we have guardrails that we can think about everything that we do to make sure that we are aligned with that case. All right. Let's move on to value in need, because if we understand value in need, if we understand what we're doing around value in need, all of a sudden this will start to paint the picture for what we need to do at each of the stages of the journey. So again, if our job is to serve people and solve problems, how do we do that with our marketing, right? How do we do that not just with the materialization of a sale, but how can our marketing be the initial process of this service and this solving of problems? Well, it all comes down to the value to need continuum. If you think about it, this is it right here. Like, if there's enough value given to the people who need it most, at that Venn diagram, at that center point, we have, let me get my fancy laser pointer. At that point, we have a conversion. We have a transaction. When the value and need matches so well, all of a sudden sales isn't difficult, right? So what do we need to do? Well, I'm going to first start off with what can we be doing right now? So you have value, and there's customers that need it. The way that we need to market and the way that we need to communicate is in a way where we expand. We showcase our value. We expand the value that we have. We create need based on the value that we provide. But we got to be very careful, because this is something that's near and dear to me. There's certain types of marketing that I just don't recommend. I will not work on, I don't do, and because I believe it's immoral. And because one of the ways that you could sell, you could market, is by embellishing your value. Right? Have you guys ever seen a company that has exaggerated their value to the world? Right? You say, well, I thought that was all marketing. It doesn't have to be. And we're going to go through that this week in ways that we can do that ethically or morally. So embellishing, and it's not just as obvious as a straight lie. Let me give you an example. You guys probably know what this brand is just by the silhouette, right? Well, let me ask you a question. And this brand is highly revered, right? This brand has accolades. There's books written after it. I've actually got a lot of pushback sometimes bringing up this brand, so I apologize in advance. Have you ever thought, what does Coke sell? What does Coke sell? Well, if you look at their marketing, what they sell is things like joy, Christmas, Santa, youth, vitality, friends, fun, family, right? If you look at the marketing, when you drink a Coke, your life is pretty good based on all the things that are being surrounded. The suggestive elements of their advertising is that if you drink a Coke, you're going to have fun, be around family, and polar bears will probably show up, right? But think about it. That's different. There's a gap between how they present themselves and what they really offer. What do they really offer? Sweet, bubbly, brown, caffeinated water. And hey, if you want a sweet, bubbly, brown, caffeinated water, go get a Coke. That's fine. But that's not what they sell. They don't talk about that at all, right? So there's a gap. And then if I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, but in a future presentation, we're going to talk about what the real benefit of a product is. What is the real result of the benefit? I'll drink a Coke here and there, but you drink enough Cokes, and the real outcome, the real outcome, isn't very good. It's definitely not this. And so, for me, I don't believe in marketing in a way that embellishes or exaggerates or even kind of curts around the way or what the value of a product really is, you know? And so maybe with Coke, that's the only way they can sell their products. They're obviously doing a really good job because it's a huge brand. But that's not what we're going to teach today. The other thing that you can use to expand the value to need continuum is fear-mongering. And this is another thing that I am completely against. And this happens all the time. You know, the FOMO, fear of missing out. Now, there's a difference between highlighting to particular individuals the problems that they have. Saying, you have a problem, and it's bad, and I have a solution. That's different than creating it. Saying, if you don't look like this, if you don't dress like this, if you don't have this, if you don't make this much money, and if you don't drive this, you're a very bad person. That's different. That's fear-mongering. That's the fear of missing out. Now, that's something that we will be completely avoiding in this process. I believe that we can effectively create amazing marketing, make an amazing difference in the marketplace by just adding real value to real people. And that's what we're going to focus on. All right. Now, this is funny because in most sessions, I'm usually having my whiteboard, and I'm sure I'll have my whiteboard out on some future presentations during this workshop. But the other kind of thing I wanted to share, this principle of success, is that you can't whiteboard success. You can start the planning, but you can't make success happen on that initial go, on that initial whiteboard. Here's what I mean. So I talked earlier about the lottery ticket mentality, right? The lottery ticket mentality is one that says that success is just finding the exact right thing, and implementing it, and all of a sudden you're successful, right? If we just got the right thing, if I bought this guy's product and copied A and B and pasted it there, and all of a sudden we're just infinitely successful. That's just not how it works. Again, that's not how your business is grown. That's not how you've grown as an individual. There's a very obvious plan. Like I said, these are standard, almost so obvious truths that we miss them. And so SAM is an acronym that we use to see continual improvement. So step one of the SAM process is that you have to first have an idea of your current location. Where are you? Where are you right now? How many leads do you have? How many sales do you have? How many customers do you have? Just take inventory. How much traffic are you getting, right? How much content do you have in your site? These are just all real black and white things. Here's where we are. Here is where we are. And the next step, which is very powerful, is to then say, where do we want to be? I'm going to say that this right here, this is huge. We don't spend enough time really painting a strong enough picture for where we want to go. And so think about it. If you don't have a clear, tangible goal for where you want to go, or if you're applying initiative, what that initiative should be providing for you, how are you going to get there? Right? How are you going to get to some place that you haven't designated? It's like the GPS system, right? You pick up your phone, you're on the GPS, and if you try to do one of these things, right? Let's say you put in your destination, but it doesn't know where you are. You can't get a map. You can't have a map if you don't know where you currently are, no matter if you know where you want to go. And the opposite is also true. You might know where you are, but if you don't know where you want to go, there's not going to be any navigation. There's not going to be any system that's going to tell you exactly where. So one of the first things we have to do is take inventory of where we are and then have clear definition of where we want to go. Because when we have those two things, now we can implement and learn. And the first thing that we're going to do is apply a strategy. And that's going to be a part of what we're doing here. We're going to have a strategy, an idea that works not just based on what the world's doing or what's the hot topic right now or what Facebook is telling you to do, but based on your value to need continuum, based on the idea of the customer journey, based on this idea of moving people through, serving them, solving their problems into a way that you move people all the way through the customer journey. So we're going to start with this strategy, and we're going to develop that in these 5 days. The next step is then act. We're going to act. And we're going to have a little workshop later this week that shows you how to take grand ideas and a different marketing campaign and break it up into a piece where you can go and act. But you have to implement. You got to implement the strategy. And then the third step, and this is so missing. I literally had consulted with a company that does $5 billion a year in sales. They have stores, online, all this other stuff. And when I went on their Google Analytics, they had 0 conversion tracking. There was no way inside of their own Google Analytics to track if a conversion happens. So this is not a problem. This is not like, oh, small brands, medium sized. No. This is a missing ingredient across the board. Because if you don't have a data point that you can say, how is this working, then how are you going to improve it? And this just becomes a flywheel effect, right? Here's where we are. Here's where we want to go. We're going to implement a strategy. We're going to implement well. We're going to then measure, are we where we want to be? What did we learn? Well, we learned this. Okay, well, let that impact your strategy. Act. And we're just going to keep going around and around. And then once you hit your desired destination, guess what? You're probably going to have a new grand goal. And we're just going to keep pivoting these on top of each other. And so in a very systematic, scientific method approach, we're going to have the ideas, we're going to act, we're going to implement, and then we're going to measure success. This doesn't happen by accident. This is an intentional process that we go through. But I mean, honestly, I think the reason you're probably on a call like this with me is that you hope that we have some ideas that maybe will help you further along, that'll give you, a head start in the process. But don't take anything that a consultant gives you, just for gospel. Don't take anything that you're given as being like, this is absolute the way it is. Like, look at it through the lens of your value to need, the idea of customer journey. And then if you do decide that this is worth taking a stab at, implement it. Now, I mentioned earlier in the shiny new toy syndrome that so often brands will start projects, get really excited about it, and then it fizzles. Well, this is the main reason to solve that. If you thought it was well enough to start an initiative, to get something going, to do everything, if you just launch it and you learn and you iterate and you improve, maybe after a couple rounds you realize, this is no go and we got to blow it up. But you're never going to have instant success. It's always going to be a process. So you have to be able, when you launch these things, to learn and then to figure out kind of what are not just the big metrics, like what's the sales and the leads, but what are the minor metrics? What are the certain metrics that are hints that things are working, things are getting better? And so again, this is something that we're going to go through in this week, is we're going to define how do you implement the SAM methodology into your marketing. All right. So to recap, there's 3 major fundamental principles that must be in place in order to get success. You must have a clearly defined value to need continuum. And this is what we're going to go over tomorrow. We're going to go through a workshop where we're going to, and it's going to be, again, this was more educational, more kind of ideas. Tomorrow it's going to be document, fill in the blanks, get this going, start to get the ball rolling. So value to need continuum. We have to have that clearly defined. If you clearly know what you're best in the world at and the people who need it most, all of a sudden that starts to solve a lot of problems with marketing. Then when we understand those best customers and we understand that they have to go through awareness, action, advocacy, affinity, right? They got to go through the process. we're going to implement and we're going to start to take those pieces and add the value to need to those so that we're maximizing our core strengths to serve the customers the best that we can to get them through the customer journey. And then the last piece is going to be the SAM methodology. How do we take a high-level strategy, build an action plan, know how to implement it, and then know what data points are going to show us success or not? So again, this is what we're going to go through all week long. And so I think, again, you probably have been in this situation where it's Monday, right? And maybe you came into work and you open up your email, task planner, and you're like, what do I do now? And if we don't have a really clear action plan to know, we end up doing busy work. Right? Well, I'll send the email, I'll pick up the things, and and whether you're a solopreneur or you got a team, that's what's happening. There's so many teams that are just, big teams starting up, open up their emails, and they're like, whoa, we got to do stuff. And they're just haphazardly acting. If we could just focus on what's most important, if we had a clarity, if we could click on a button and see exactly what is the most important things that we should be focusing on, and we know why we're doing it because we have these really grand, awesome goals, and we know that we're serving people and solving problems, I believe that we will find focus and fire in our organization. And that is exactly what we want to do. That's what we called it, the Focus and Fire Workshop, is to re-energize our actions and then re-energize ourselves and our teams to execute. So, I really appreciate you guys joining and taking part of this workshop. I'm really excited for the rest of this week where we build out these 3 fundamental aspects. By the end of the week, you're going to have that amazing focus and fire, that clear plan on what we want to be working on. And so I'm going to go easy on you guys. The first day, we're just kind of, hanging out, getting together. So on your worksheet, the last page is a bit of homework. And it's just about the brand advocate. Okay. So again, we so wholeheartedly believe that creating brand advocates needs to be the goal of all of your business. Just how many do we have? How many, what does that create? You want to understand revenue. You want to see hockey stick growth. Get more advocates. Engage, empower, get your advocates going. And so to get you in the framework and to, again, also realize that it's not about you. It's about your customer. I want you to become the customer for a moment. And so on that last worksheet, I want you to write down, what is a brand that you're an advocate for? So just list your favorite brand you just sold out for. Then list why. Why are you an advocate? What is it about the brand, the feelings, the vibe? What is it? Why? And then write down what are all the ways that you participate with that brand. All right, are you on their email list? Do you check out all their videos? How often do you buy things? Why do you buy them? And just show and really detail by how you are an advocate for others, detail exactly what an advocate looks like. Because this is going to be really powerful when we think about the customer journey map, because we want to begin with the end in mind. We want to begin with understanding that we're trying to create brand advocates. What is a brand advocate? And then if you wanted to do a little bit extra in there, right? How did you find the brand? Like, how did you even originally find them? How did you grow into becoming an advocate to the brand? You might have just known them a little bit, and then maybe you got a product and you were super wowed, or they made a video and then you got here. Show the process that went from you becoming aware to becoming an advocate. And I think this would be a great exercise for us to frame the rest of the week. And so, went easy on you guys a little bit. We finished up early today. If you could, just do me a huge favor, do Intent Company a huge favor. We're really excited about putting on this workshop. It's a new endeavor for us. Like I said, these are just things that we've learned over the last 15 years of building really cool marketing strategies with really cool brands. We've learned what not to do. We've learned some things what to do. One thing that could be really helpful is to just get your feedback. If you could get out there and to be providing, some feedback in the private group, leaving us some information. Also, if you got any friends, other business owners, other people that in marketing that you think could benefit from this, please share it. Share the link with them. Like I said, we're going to be recording these and hosting them in the private Facebook group all week long. So even if someone starts a day or two late or whatever, there's plenty of time to catch up and to be building this process. So again, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. And thanks. Billy Robbins, Intent Company. Hope you guys get some focus and fire, and we'll be back here the same time tomorrow. All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Take care.